Basically a true blue American. You're
basically,
born here, lived here most of your life.
Yeah.
So how did you get, how did you get interested with Japanese culture and music?
Yeah, it really caught me by surprise. I didn't grow up having a fascination with Japan. Didn't really think about it one way or the other. But after I moved to New York in '99 to attend the New School Jazz and Contemporary Music program, I started working with a lot of Japanese musicians and not only enjoyed their musicality and their creativity, but made a lot of really good friends. So I became interested in Japan just through these friendships. But I still wasn't interested in doing a group that was based on Japanese culture. It was farthest thing from my mind. But right before I went to visit Japan, my mother gave me some memoirs that my grandfather's brother had written just before he died. And he had received 2 Purple Hearts in Okinawa he was with the U.S. Marine Corps and fought in extremely violent circumstances. So I had just read those memoirs before I went to Japan. And so, I'm visiting friends, meeting new people. Everyone's extremely gracious. I'm having a great time. And on my last night, I thought back to those memoirs, which very frankly recount extreme violence. He was horribly wounded. Friends died. He killed people. He's very frank about that. And I was very touched by the contrast that if I had been born in his time, my close friends who are Japanese might have been my bitter enemies, and I'm fighting in a war, never getting to know them as people. So on that last night, I kind of took a little vow that I was going to form a group, half Japanese, half American, and trying to do what I can to enlighten Americans about Japanese culture so they could understand in a more nuanced way, than just, it's not just sumo and Godzilla films or whatever. But then at the same token, building relationships between Japanese and American artists. And just, exploring our friendships and hopefully, using musical explorations as a cultural ambassador. So that's basically it.
That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
So during your visit in Japan, what did you like most about Japanese culture?
Oh my, interacting with people. Just like even if there's a fleeting on a bus or a subway, just the kindness of everyone I met, I thought was really great. And I hope to get that back there for a much longer stay and really much deeply explore the culture, which I have not done yet, on a first-hand basis.
And you talked about some of the differences between the current generation and previous generation of Americans with how they interact with Japanese. So now, for this generation, what do you think are the main similarities and differences between these two cultures?
Well, my deepest experiences have been just playing music in New York with Japanese, and I don't feel any difference really. It's like they're just nice people, cool and fun, and it's not like these exotic specimens or anything. So I think that's the most important thing is like the way any two cultures interact is like on a personal level. Sure you'll find some differences of behavior or mannerism, but in the end, really, we are one world. I know it's a platitude, but you'll find more similarities than differences. So, yeah, I can't really say there's a huge difference between one generation and the next or one culture and the next, because in my own little sphere, it's just very natural, authentic friendships. No difference.
So you're basically saying they're just people,
people.
Even though they're born in different countries, eat different foods, they're just people.
Fancy that,
About your album, the Kaidan Suite. That's where you recreate the mood of this telling Japanese ghost stories by the candlelight, and a lot of it is about women and wives being abused by husbands. And so, what inspired you to base your music around this theme?
Well, I was very engaged by the practice, and correct my pronunciation, Hyaku Monogatari Kairankai. Pretty good? Yeah. Pretty good? Okay. Gathering of 100 ghostly tales. See, I am learning Japanese through this group. Gathering of 100 ghostly tales. And it was a practice done 150, 200 years ago in Japan. It's very popular recreation where you gather together and take turns telling ghost stories. But with each story, you extinguish a candle. So it gets gradually darker and darker and obviously scarier and scarier. And as a composer, that narrative arc was really compelling to me, like starting the moods of a piece very light and optimistic, but then taking this unexpected journey to very, very dark places. So to prepare for the composition, a lot of those stories have been collected written down, even though they were oral stories. And then a lot of them were subject matters for famous films. So read a lot of the stories, watched a lot of the films, and it seemed like 3 out of 4 were about conjugal murder. That's just what it's about. So to be true to the source material, that's what my piece had to be about. So yeah, it's sort of a hybrid of all of these stories, these traditional stories. So I just worked with certain themes that kept reoccurring.